Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. So, all right, a couple of weeks ago, I did a vlog regarding the 5D Mark IV. And I talked about the specs, and it just came out that day, and I did a comparison to like the 5D Mark III, 4-year newer model, the 5D Mark IV, how do they compare? What do those specs look like? And I gave you a lot of negatives when it came to dual pixel, and there's a lot of things that I didn't kind of like with it, but I said, you know what? I promise you guys, I'm going to bring in a 5D Mark IV into studio. I'm going to do a proper review on it, and that's what I did. I just got the 5D Mark IV in. It came in from ATS Rental. I love those guys. They do such a bang-up job. When you order something from them, it's always perfect. It comes in just pristine. They just get it right, and they're always on time. I just love those guys. Anyway, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be answering questions that I got in the comment area on that last video. Normally, when I do the still portions of reviews, the still shots, I'll use like a model or something like that. But this review, what I used was these little guys. And you're like, what the hell is that? So let me tell you a backstory real quick. This is anecdotal. So my son, right, is 8 years old, and for 2 or 3 years, it's been Xbox, right? And as a way for me to get him off the Xbox, what I did is I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and start doing some carving with him. So these two guys were carved by me and my son. One is like a tree spirit, one is a sea turtle, and these are the ones that I'm going to use for my stills to take a look at how does the camera resolve images? How clear are they? How deep can you go into them? Anyways, moving into the review itself. Like I said, I'm going to be answering questions from you guys from the last video. And one of the questions came in from a guy named Jeff Schumann. And he asked about shooting long duration, long exposures with this camera. How do the images hold up to that extended period of exposure? So what I did is I took myself out of the house, went into the backyard, right? This was late at night with Zika infested mosquito area. And I shot these photos. Now, one photo I shot at 10 minutes and the other one I shot at 20 minutes. They're both using a 24-70 L glass 2.8 professional piece of Canon lens, right? And they're both shot at 24 millimeters at ISO 100. The 10-minute is shot at 5.6 and the 20-minute was shot at f8. To compensate for the extra light, for the extra time, right? Now, as you can see in the 10-minute image, if you take a look at that tree line, you'll see slight blur to the trees, and you're gonna get that over time due to wind, right? You're gonna have slight blur in the trees, which is fine. We expect that. There's not too much of it because it was a really not that windy night, but it is what it is. This is what it looked like. Now, what was interesting here is when we went on to the 20-minute image, if you take a look here, the center portion, about 30% of the image, is extremely soft. I would say unacceptably soft. Now this is at 20 minutes. I've never seen this before on any type of extended, a very long exposure shot. I just don't know what this is. I don't know if there's something wrong with the camera. It's some type of anomaly, but as you can see, it just looks horrible. I really don't know. So what I did is I have an original image, and then I did one where I accentuated the exposure so that you guys can see how blurry it is in those areas. Now, I didn't do anything else to it. No noise reduction, no nothing. So I really don't know. This is something that to me is hopefully an anomaly, but I want to ask you guys in the comments below, if you have a 5D Mark IV, tell the community. Do a 20-minute shot, let's say with an ND filter or whatever you're using, or possibly at night. Do that 20-minute shot and take a look at the image and share it with us. Are you getting the same results? If you are, this could be a possible recall issue for Canon, because I've never seen this before. It should not be like this. It should not be so soft in the center of this image. I don't know if it was sensor heat up. I really have not a clue. I have not a clue what this could be. But like I said, tell us. Let us know in the comments below. Because I know, like for example with Jeff here, maybe he's shooting some long exposures during the day, and he's doing a lot of river work, and he's doing maybe some waterfall work, and he's doing really long exposures with those really dark ND, neutral density filters on the camera. Well, this camera might not be the camera for him if he's not able to do that. So it could be a major problem, and I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, let me know. Moving into autofocus lockup speed. Now, I have a Canon 5D Mark I, 5D Mark II. I did not have the Canon 5D Mark III in studio at the time. So what I did is I did a quick comparison between the 5D Mark II and the 5D Mark IV. One of the people asked, how fast does it pull autofocus? And I did find that autofocus is slightly faster with the 5D Mark IV. Is it a big, massive difference? I would have to say no. Now that's, it could be hundreds of thousands of seconds, quicker, but it is quicker, but not by that much. So I would say autofocus is pretty much on par. Yes, this newer model, now about 8 years difference between the 5D Mark II and the 5D Mark IV. Is it faster? Yes, but I would say not by a lot. Also, I got a question in regards to autofocus lens calibration. The person had a camera that does autofocus lens calibration, but it only allows 1 point of autofocus lens calibration, like the 5D Mark II. When they moved into a 5D Mark III and now the 5D Mark IV, they give you 2 points of autofocus calibration. They give you a wide angle and a telephoto. That is awesome. With the 5D Mark IV, I'm getting a bit of front focusing that's uncalibrated. So at +6, as you can see in this image, it's absolutely tack sharp. And how do we see that it's tack sharp? Is we take a look at what's out of focus. We see that -20, or the top 20 and the bottom 20, are equally out of focus. And the same thing with 25 and 25. They're both equally out of focus. It's easier to figure out what's in focus by looking at what's out of focus when you're doing lens calibration. So what's really nice about this camera, just like the 5D Mark III, it gives us the ability to do autofocus at the bottom of the zoom as well as the top of the zoom. So what's great is, for example, if you're like me and you shoot a 70 to 200 a lot, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and set your focus at 70, do your calibration at 70, and then set it at 200 and do your calibration at 200, and you're going to get rock solid images at either end of the spectrum, right? Another way to do it is what I do. I use my 70 to 200 all the time for portraits, and I shoot it at 180 millimeters, right? So what I do is I set my autofocus lens calibration at 180 millimeters, and that way that every single one of my portraits are dead on. When I shoot a model's eyes, I know their eyelashes are going to be tack sharp and not the back of their ear or the front of their nose, right? So as far as autofocus lens calibration, the 5D Mark IV, 2 thumbs up, awesome. Just like the Mark III, you're going to get the wide as well as the zoom angle for doing focus calibration. That is fantastic. So next thing was image quality. Now, once again, I don't have the 5D Mark III, but I took a look at image quality with the 5D Mark II versus the 5D Mark IV, and you do see a slight improvement on the Mark IV. Now, is it massive? I would say no. But as you can see, there's a little bit better clarity, and you can kind of push in a little bit more. Now, obviously, you have more megapixels, so 8 or 10 megapixels more, right? So you're going to get a little bit more out of it. So yes, it is a little bit sharper. But if you're shooting a 4x6 or maybe even an 8x10 or 8x12, between the two cameras, will you notice it? The answer is absolutely not. You will not notice the difference. Now, moving on into what was like the big major thing that they were talking about was this dual pixel RAW. And originally I said, this is just ridiculous, this dual pixel RAW. It's been around from the 80D, the 70D. They use it for being able to do facial tracking and all this stuff. Now they're giving us the ability to make the modifications internal using their software to kind of push and pull, let's say, focus. But the problem is it's such a fine amount. Now, they're giving us the ability to do image micro adjustment. They've given us the ability to do bokeh shift, as well as ghosting reduction. Now, these 3 things that they're giving us, we are having to pay for. Now, how much do we pay for? We pay for it basically in double the size of the image. And that is massive. That is a big difference. Now, originally, there was a question that came in, well, how many frames per second do you get out of this camera? Now, we know that they're saying that it's 9 frames per second. That is all in good. That's fantastic, right? 9 frames per second. But my question to you guys would be, well, if I'm shooting 9 frames per second, that's great. Well, now, how about if I'm shooting in an extended period of time where I'm trying to get a lot of images all in a row? How many can I get? And what I found here with dual pixel RAW turned off, I was able to get about 25 to 26 frames before it started buffering, right? So your 9 frames per second is great until you get to 24, 25, 26 frames, and then all of a sudden you're down to 2 frames per second or 1 frame per second, right? Which would be abysmal, correct? Now, once you go to dual pixel, instead of what you'd think would be in half, let's say at 25 or 26 would give us like maybe 13 frames per second, that's not what we got. As you can tell here by giving it a listen, we're only getting about 6 frames, 7, 8 frames, the most frames before it starts buffering. And it's so slow, you can just hear how lethargic it is using dual pixel. Now, seeing that dual pixel is giving us basically this micro adjustment. When we take a look at this micro adjustment, if you look at this image, I'm pushing it forward and I'm pushing it back. And as you can tell by just that little bit of fuzz, it does get slightly clearer, but by how much? And when you're sitting, that's at 2.8, right? F2.8. Now, if you were shooting at F, let's say 5.6, or even more, you would literally not even be able to use image micro adjustment because you wouldn't see it. It would be absolutely useless. And the same thing with the bokeh shift as well as ghosting reduction. I think that it's such a minimal thing, right? That having to shoot an image that starts out at, let's say, 34 megabytes and having to have these images at 60 some megabytes to be able to get this little bit of functionality and no more depth in the image. It's not like we're getting any more resolution. There's no more resolve, right? I think it's a waste. That's my personal opinion. I just don't think that it's really worth anything. This DP RAW thing, I think, is just a farce. That's just my opinion, you know? Like I said, I'm a Canon guy, but I'm gonna call it as I see it. And I just don't get it. I don't see it. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, so, you know, to kind of sum up, I think that the Canon 5D Mark IV is a good specimen, let's call it. It's a good camera. But honestly, for being 4 years newer to the 5D Mark III and 8 years newer to the 5D Mark II, how much better it is so minuscule that I just don't see spending that extra money for it. For me, if I was giving someone new advice to either buy or not buy, I would say save yourself $1,000 and go pick a 5D Mark III up. And with that $1,000, go buy a piece of professional glass. That glass is gonna last a lifetime. The camera body is like toilet paper. You're gonna be tossing it in a few years anyways and buying the next best thing. So to me, the 5D Mark IV, I'm gonna give it like probably a thumbs in the middle, maybe even a thumbs down, because I honestly think what they've done, and this is my opinion, I don't know how everyone else is, I might get flamed or some people might agree. My opinion is, in the last 4 years, Canon has done next to nothing when it comes to the 5D. That's my personal opinion. I think they've spent their money and their R&D time on mirrorless, okay? Rightfully so, right? Rightfully so. They have spent time on the 1D, and I think they're going to continue to spend time on the 1D, but I think that the 5D is slowly being, I wouldn't say, let's say, meandered off into the pasture, but let's just say they're not putting their full effort into the 5D any longer. They put a lot of time into the Canon EOS M, which is their mirrorless offering that just came out. And in my personal opinion, I think it falls short. Even though they've put so much time into it, there's still major issues with that camera, and you can see it in my past video, that just doesn't make sense. So what they've been doing, I really don't know, but they really need to get on the ball because their 5D is just, to me, I don't know, it's just not revolutionary. It's just basically an iteration to the 5D Mark III. Is it better? Yes, it's better, but by how much? I think it's nominal. I don't think it's worth the purchase. That's my personal opinion. So what do you guys think? Like I said, if you have a 5D Mark IV and you've done some testing, especially on those long exposures, please let the community know. Let us know, because we are the ones that need to know, and we are the ones that are going to be telling Canon, is it time for you to do a recall? Because if this is not an anomaly and I do not have a bad unit, okay, this is a major issue. There's one other thing that I want to touch on. This unit itself, and I don't know how all other specimens are out there, and it's something you guys might want to check out if you do have a 5D Mark IV. I found over 20 dead pixels on this sensor. And as you can see in this night shot, I'll circle some of them, but each one of these bright green or bright magenta or bright blue little spots that you see all over the place, those spots, now not the noise, not the little ones, but the big ones, those are dead pixels. Those are pixels that do not work on this sensor. So if this was my camera and I had 4 or 5 dead pixels, I would say, that's okay. But seeing that there's 20 or more on this specific model or this specific piece, I would send this back into Canon for either a replacement unit or at least a sensor replacement. Because to me, $3-4 grand for dead pixels is unacceptable, okay? They need to work on their QC, quality control, and make sure that this does not happen. That's too many dead pixels for a brand new camera that's literally a week old. Anyways, that's my personal opinion. I want to hear from you guys. Definitely, if you like the content, please give me a thumbs up as always. I really would appreciate it. Once again, head over to my store over at jchristina.com. I've invented a lot of photography tools. Some of them I used in this video, matter of fact, and they might be helpful to you. Once again, as always, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. Whenever I come out with new content, you'll get it immediately when it becomes available. So that's it, guys. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and comment below. Those comments are very, very helpful. You help me and you help the community in general. Thanks a lot. Take care. We'll see you in the next vlog.